The Hack Your Health event, formerly known as KetoCon, is going to be going on May 31st through June 2nd, 2024 in Austin, Texas. And I do plan to be there this year. You can click on the link and use my discount code Dante and save another $50 off of the currently reduced price of $249 for your 3-day passes and get them for $199. That's going to end at the end of February. So get your tickets before February ends so you can get them at the best price. Hey guys, welcome back to Ferrigno Freedom Channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno. I'm back to react to another video with you. This is something my wife shared with me that has to do with the lab-grown meat situation. Apparently there's a bill in Florida that's going to be trying to deal with the lab-grown meat situation, at least in our state. And I thought it was a good thing to go over because as carnivores, I know most of us are looking to get the healthiest meat we can get. Many of us try to be able to find good grass-fed, grass-finished, regeneratively farmed meat if we can. It's not always easy. It's definitely not always affordable. I think it's not affordable for reasons that are way outside of the market itself. They have more to do with things that are being pushed by the government that are preventing us from being able to have market pricing on things that people would actually spend money on if they were affordable. I know there's other areas of this country and especially around the world where meat prices are way higher than I could even imagine they would be, except for the fact that somebody is doing social engineering to try to get us to eat more plant materials, to get us away from meat because they don't want us healthy and they don't want us strong. This thing with lab-grown meat is scary for a lot of reasons, but I don't want to speculate too much about my thoughts on it or offer my opinion on all of this until we take a look at the video. The video is called Pro-Agriculture and Lab-Grown Meat Bill. Parents pull kids from school after leftist rally and more. This is all on a channel called Florida's Voice. As a citizen of the state of Florida, this is something that my wife checks out on a regular basis. And when she saw this, she thought this might be something I'd like to share with my audience. And when she told me it dealt with lab-grown meat, it was. I've queued it up to 20 minutes and 34 seconds into this video. So if you want to watch the original video, I have a link in the description for it. It has the whole story on there. I'm not going to say I agree with any or all of what they're going to say or what they said in the other parts of the video, but I would like to see what's going on, and I would encourage you to be aware of what's going on in your state with regard to these things, because they're going to make a big difference in our very near future. Let's take a look.
Joining us now on Florida's Voice is Florida's Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson to discuss his initiatives and efforts to help the agriculture community throughout the state. Commissioner Simpson, thank you for taking the time.
Happy to be here.
So Governor Ron DeSantis made a lot of headlines this week, throwing his support behind your bill that you're championing to ban fake meat in the state. But that doesn't tell the whole story. There's a lot more initiatives to that bill. But first of all, I mean, tell us about how excited you are that this is getting mainstream attention.
Yeah, well, of course, Brendan, when you think about cultured meat or a biomass or a synthetic meat, you have to consider the consumers in this. And I think that's the part that's left out. I know the USDA has given a temporary go-ahead to producing this product, but there's no science there's not enough science behind it, and there's not enough years behind it, enough data behind it to know if it's going to be safe for our consumers. So we're not going to ban the research of these types of products, but we certainly do not want to put our entire cattlemen out of business or chicken industry out of business. We don't want to put these businesses and potentially jeopardize our citizens either with a.
Doesn't it seem like there's somebody out there who wants to put these things out of business? There's people with certain ideological philosophies that think that those industries need to absolutely go. All the problems within the industry aside, as far as how the cattle are raised, how they're slaughtered, whether or not it's humane, all of that is a whole nother issue that should be dealt with. But there are people who just want to end the cattle industry, to end the chicken farming industry, because they have ideological ideas that we're hurting animals in some way by eating them. And that is the most ridiculous thing in the world. But that is what a lot of the people who are being used to be the impetus behind these things happening, to be the voice, the activists that push for these things, this is exactly what they would want to see. They would want to see the cattle industry ended, which, just the thought of where are these cows going to live if they're not on safe land, where they're fenced off, where they're moved from paddock to paddock, and they're treated like kings as on the property that I buy my cattle from. These cattle are treated so well that they're always eating, they're always happy, they're eating the grass that they were meant to be eating. They're not eating grains that are covered in chemicals and filled with antibiotics and vaccines and all the other stuff that you might be getting even in some of your store-bought meat, and the hormonal injections and things like that. Where do you think these cows are going to live? Where do you think they're going to be? I mean, there's millions of cows now. Think how much reduced the population would be of them were it not for the cattle farmer. I mean, if you're protecting life, reducing population doesn't protect life. It ends life. So I think we can agree that there are people out there who would want to see the cattle industry destroyed and see the chicken industry destroyed. And I think this is a little bit part of it. Let me back this up just a little bit.
We don't want to put these businesses and potentially jeopardize our citizens either with a lab grown meat or a petri dish grown meat. So it's very important we get this ban. I was happy to see that Governor DeSantis has weighed in now. It's a part of our ag package, so hopefully we'll see that pass here in the next week and get it to the governor's office.
Yeah, so that ag package is sponsored by Senator Jay Collins in the Senate and then Representative Danny Alvarez in the House. Let's run through some of the things. I have it right here in front of me. I mean, we're looking to ban the manufacturing and sale of lab-grown meat like we talked about. This is a good one. This is for the students, the 4-H students. It requires school districts to recognize FFA and 4-H activities as excused absences.
A great point, Brendan. That's a critical part of this bill. What happens, and I always use me as the example, about 45 years ago, I was in middle school, and a little more than 45 years ago.
Long time ago.
That is a long time ago. And when we were there, it was all about we needed to learn humanities and arts type programs and things of that nature because we were coming off the farms. We had not been exposed to a lot of that type of ancient history and arts and culture. And so what's going to make you a more well-rounded student? And I believe today that any chance that we get in the K-12 system to educate our children on food production, agriculture, real farming, and let them understand where their food comes from, I think it's very helpful. So in this bill, we're saying if you're a part of the FFA, which is Future Farmers of America, or you're part of the 4-H clubs, that if you go to a school event, that you're going to be excused on your absences. I met with 1,000 4-H kids yesterday that were in Tallahassee, and every one of them were clapping about that because they have to pick and choose one or two events they can go to on an annual basis versus the program that is set out in front of them. So we're going to try to change that. That's part of this package this year.
And a little bit outside of agriculture, but a part of your department in this package is also making it a little bit easier to replace lost or stolen concealed carry permits, so strengthening 2A.
Amen. Well, so it's, when I was in the Senate for years, I had a great history of being a pro-Second Amendment senator. I actually sponsored the bill to where local tax collectors could do your concealed carry permits so you didn't have to go to Tallahassee or you didn't have to go to one of those regional offices. That cut down the time. At that time, I think they were telling me it was 4, 5, 6 months to get a concealed carry. And it cut it down to you could get them, in 30 days or less when we did that. That was a big step. I was very proud of that. What we want to do this year is make it more convenient when you get your renewals to be able to go to that same local tax collectors rather than have to engage Tallahassee. So if you choose to go to your local tax collector's office, you can get it on the same day perhaps. And we're trying to make it easier. And by the way, in my office, when I first started, we had nearly 10,000 backlogs of concealed carry weapons permits. We are nearly down to zero now. We're nearly down to went through them all in less than a year. Plus, while we're continuing to have this program go, so we're very proud of that also.
Commissioner Wilton Simpson, we appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck with your package moving forward this session.
Thank you, Brendan.
Seems amazing to me that all of those things are in the same package. The one with the 4-H and the palmetto berries makes sense, but the concealed carry, you're talking to the agricultural, the Secretary of Agriculture for the state in dealing with concealed carry. Mixing these things together is part of the problem with a lot of our bills, is they got so many different things. It's like if you got somebody who's pro Second Amendment, which I am very much pro Second Amendment, and I do have mine, but mixing it with farm bill stuff convolutes the issue, because if this whole package needs to be voted on together, as many of these things are in Congress, then it's going to make it almost impossible to be able to get them approved, because you've got different views on different topics, but you got one bill to vote on. Let's see what's going on here real quick. Let's see. Florida lab-grown meat bill. My wife sent me this video back on February 9th. So let's see what's happened since then. It's been almost 2.5 weeks. 9 days ago, lab-grown meat. Florida lawmakers don't like the sound of it. Yep, well, I see that. That's the New York Times. Florida lawmakers back a bill banning sales of lab-grown meats. This was on 2/13, so this was 4 days after that video was sent to me. I guess that means they passed it. Let me see. Florida lawmakers back a bill banning sales of lab-grown meats. Federal agencies have deemed lab-grown meat or cultivated meat safe to eat, but the legislation supported by the state's agriculture industry pumps the brakes on the food to ensure it is safe. The Florida House on Monday continued moving forward with a wide-ranging bill that includes banning sales of lab-grown meat in the state and preventing local governments from regulating electric vehicle charging stations. Why are those two things in the same bill together? The Republican-controlled House Agriculture and National Resources Appropriations Subcommittee voted 9-3 to approve the bill, which deals with the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services regulatory issues. Federal agencies have deemed lab-grown or cultivated meat safe to eat, but the bill's sponsor, David Alvarez, Republican of Hillsborough County, said the legislation supported by the state's agriculture industry pumps the brakes on the food to ensure it's safe. Right now, we don't have the information for a consumer to make an educated, informed, consensual decision, Alvarez said. Until we have long-term studies that tell me what lab-grown immortalized cells do to your body, I challenge you to put it in your child, Alvarez added. Cultivated meat involves the process of taking a small number of cultured cells from animals and growing them in controlled settings to make food. Supporters of cultivated meat call the legislation anti-free market and argue it will benefit China, which is researching the products. Representative Lindsey Cross, Democrat of St. Petersburg, said cultivated meat won't replace traditional agriculture in Florida, but is needed as the industry faces further pressure from the state's growing population. It's needed. This new technology that allows us to grow meat, not in an animal the natural way, but in a lab, is now needed. I don't even know how to express how ridiculous that sounds, but this is the way people think. And it blows my mind that we're even considering this. I mean, we're playing God with this technology that we have with genetics and understanding cellular growth and all of these other things that we're doing. We don't even understand nutrition at this point. Yet we're willing to start changing what we're feeding ourselves with these lab-grown ideas. It's absolutely bonkers. And it's enough to make you crazy to listen to these things happening. As we run out of ag lands, we will have to look for alternative food systems, Cross said. I would rather have that come from Florida than China. You know, that is such a lie that they even care about the fact that it's coming from Florida or China. It's something underneath the surface of this there's just no truth to it. The fact is, there's tons of land out there. There's plenty of room for the animals. There's plenty available. We're acting like it's all in short supply. And it's because it's easy to say that. It's become normal to believe that all of this stuff is in short supply, that there's not enough to feed everybody on the planet. We've proven that there is. We've been able to grow things for the livestock to eat and for people to eat in much larger volumes than ever before because of the ability for these farmers to use things like nitrogen in the earth to grow the food that they want to grow. And we're being told how bad it is for us, but yet we're seeing that humanity is being fed in ways like now that they haven't been able to be fed in my lifetime. I remember watching all those shows about they're starving over here, they're starving over there, and that has been reduced by such a great extent these days because of the things we've been able to do. Being able to use the technology of having farm equipment that can harvest a lot of food at the same time has made it easier for us to be able to feed more animals and feed more people as a result of the animals that we grow, and also feeding them the plant foods. But we've also used the technology to change the foods so that they're sweeter and that they're more addictive. The food companies are allowing us to do this and investing in this because they want to keep you addicted to it. And it has nothing to do with making sure people get proper nutrition. It's all about I want all my shares of the pie, so I'm going to make sure that I get as many people addicted as I can. Using the technology to grow more food and to make more food available for animals and to be able to raise animals better and more humanely, that's a wonderful way to use technology. But using technology to grow lab-grown meat that's going to replace our ability to even deal with naturally grown beef at some point. Just like the guy was saying in the video where he was talking about how when he was growing up, we spent a lot of time on the farm and they were trying to get us educated in these humanities and these art forms that were not being touched on in our lives. That was a good thing that they were introducing more information to them, that university system concept where you have a more universal look at the world and you're not just focused on one thing, but to leave behind the most important primal things that we learned, like how to make food, natural, healthy food from scratch, from the earth, from the animals, not from a petri dish. We're going to wind up in a very bad place. We're putting ourselves up on a high tower that's becoming very top heavy. And when that high tower starts to fall over, it's going to fall down hard. And that's what we're doing when we implement programs that allow this lab-grown meat to go on. I don't care. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to put comments in this video. I already know they're going to say that this technology is good. It's going to feed a lot of people, but they don't think about the hidden consequences that you don't see until you implement it. If this keeps going in this direction, we're going to be so detached with what allows us to live on this earth, to live and to thrive, that we're going to be so dependent upon some technology, some company that's making our food for us, and they don't have your best interest at heart. We're really setting ourselves up for a big fall. And I'm thankful that the lawmakers in the state that I live in are taking a stand against that lab-grown meat. I just hope that these ideas spread to other states and to other countries, and more people realize that we have got to get back to the basics. We've got to be able to handle these basics on a wider level than we have now, because we are really at the top of that tower that's about to fall over. We are standing at a precipice looking over something that is going to wind up having us pushed over the edge. And then once we're over the edge, there's no going back. We're already falling. We may be already falling. I don't know what to think about all this stuff, guys. I don't know what to think about everything outside of this, but all I know is we're in a heck of a mess when it comes to this lab-grown meat issue. And we got to say no to it. Guys, we got to say no. And the best way I know to do that, I mean, I'm just like you. I'm just a regular guy working a regular job. I happen to have a wonderful following here on YouTube, and I'm thankful for all of you guys. But the only way I know how to say no to these things is to not buy those products, to not give my money to companies that even sell those products if I can help it. I buy as much meat as I can from my local rancher, and I support my local processor as much as I can. They're not perfect either, but at least they're not trying to do things that are going to ultimately destroy society. When I look at the long-term ramifications of the decision of things like using lab-grown meat, shutting down our farmers, the ability to grow food the way they've been growing it using nitrogen, the shutting down of dairy farmers, natural raw milk farmers, or farmers and ranchers who sell raw milk and dairy. You know, the long-term effect of shutting those things off is far worse than anything else I could deal with when it comes to maybe a processor not giving me all of the meat that I asked for, or not possibly giving me the meat that I actually brought in to be processed. Those are also concerns when it comes to local buying. But those are small in comparison to the ones that we're dealing with here. So I say, support your local rancher. Try to buy locally when you can. And when you can't, at least eat food that is real food. Let the meat market know that people want to buy good, clean meat. Don't buy this stuff that's lab grown, this Beyond Meat, these Beyond Burgers. Don't give them your money. Let them know that you want the natural, God-given food that we were provided with on this earth, and you're not going to settle for anything less. Well, I hope this video has been helpful for you guys to know a little bit more about what's going on. I know it's kind of a downer sometimes to cover these subjects, but it's important. We've got to look at them because I want to keep eating this way. I want to keep being able to live and thrive the way I have been for over the last 3 years on my carnivore way of eating, and I know many of you do as well. That's it for this one, guys. I'll see you next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
One of the things I do to fight back against big food and big pharma is to recommend companies that make animal-based products that are good for our bodies and good for our skin. In this case, I'm talking about Vintage Tradition. Vintage Tradition tallow balms are a go-to for me now, especially the unscented one. I like it because it doesn't have anything extra in it other than extra virgin olive oil and tallow rendered from suet. This is the interior fat, also called suet or kidney fat. For the tallow they use making the tallow balm. Highly saturated and therefore more therapeutic than any other. They don't use any trim fat or any other fats besides suet. So if you want some ancestrally appropriate skincare products that are going to help support the carnivore movement, head over to vintagetradition.com and use my discount code DANTE, D-A-N-T-E, to save 10% on your order. I promise you won't regret it. Their products are fantastic. I love them and I use them all the time.